Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over the Viridian X5L light that you guys see in my hand right here. Now, I've been doing light reviews basically since the beginning of the channel, and basically since then I've been getting requests to do a review on this light. I think this light came out right after I started my channel, so the requests have been coming in for years, and I finally got my hands on one, and we are doing the review right now. So basically I've been using it on this Gen 4 Glock 22 here for months now. And what we're going to do is just report on the features of it, basically my experience with it, what I think of it overall, all that fancy stuff. But with light, in my opinion, the most important thing is to get outside and kind of get an idea of what the beam that it puts out kind of looks like. And we're going to compare it to a couple different models out there and see how it stacks up in a couple different situations around my house. So you guys will get to check that out. Of course, the dogs will check it out as well. After that, we're going to come in, do a size comparison, some details, all that stuff. And at the end, we'll let you know what we think of it overall. For those new to the channel, the fence there is about 30 to 40 feet away, the end right here where the laser is pointed. I have the camera set up so that it looks as close, as least as I can make it anyway, to what you guys are seeing as to what I see out here with my human eye. One thing I'll tell you for sure, without question, the laser is way, way brighter in person than what you guys are seeing there on your screen. But you can see it's got a decent amount of spill. I'll kind of come all the way over and you guys can maybe see the edge there on the end of that fence, and then of course there's sort of the wider hot spot in the middle, and of course the laser aiming device there. Now, for comparison's sake, what we have in my hand right now that just came on is the Streamlight HLG, so Streamlight TLR-2 HLG, and for comparison on that one, the light is so bright that you can't really see in the camera anyway, you can't really see the laser, but I can tell you in person you can see the laser just fine. But it's very bright hot spot. And again, here for comparison's sake, you guys can see a little bit of a tint difference as well. On the right is the light we're reviewing here, and of course over here on the left is still the TLR-2G. You can kind of see the laser out there on the ground, so you can trust me, it's on, but on the fence there you really can't see it. So that's sort of how they compare. Of course, this one here is a lumen monster that we've covered before. The light you see in front of you right now is being produced by a Surefire X300. You can see it has that nice bright hot spot there in the middle, but it also has a very defined edge. And then when you compare it here to the light we're reviewing, you guys can see that it has a much less defined edge and kind of has some spill out wider than what you guys can see. Oh, there's the gun on camera. Oh no. But you guys can see the difference there. Definitely different color tone as well, different hue to them, but the actual beam pattern and brightness is different as well. In terms of how it looks inside of a dwelling, we're inside my garage. The corner that you guys are about to see is about 10 feet away, and we're going to show you what it looks like here when you hit that light. So there you go. You guys can see, I think if we put the laser on the door, yeah, there you go, you'll be able to see that. However, on the wall, it's very, very bright. I don't know what it is about this camera, but it does not want to capture that laser at all. Trust me, it's much better than even what you see here on the door in real life. However, in terms of hotspot, in terms of identifying things, you guys can get a pretty good idea of what it looks like. And you guys can see there, if you wanted to search with this, it's one thing that people constantly say about weapon-mounted lights, is that they don't want to point their guns at things. I get that. However, lights aren't lasers, so as you guys can see, I'm all the way over here to the edge of my door, and it's still illuminating that corner so I can still see it. Now, if I turn the light off, that's what it looks like. It's pitch black in here. So just that light being on does give you the ability to search without having to actually point it at things. Just kind of a side note that I wanted to mention there while we're talking about it. You guys can see there that hotspot in the laser is going to light up whatever you're oriented at pretty well. Of course, there are brighter lights like we just showed outside, but this one at this distance probably wouldn't be too comfortable if it was pointed in your eye. I realize that many of you guys have probably never seen a Viridian in person, so this is how it compares, of course, to the new generation of the M-Force. You guys can see it's a little bit thicker there in the body and a little bit shorter overall, and then the lights that you guys just saw compared to with the beam comparison, the Surefire X300. You can see there it's much smaller, and it's also going to be not as wide either with those 2 batteries that the Surefire has. And then of course the 2 TLR-2 rather, HLG. Again, you'll see the HL is just pretty much bigger in just about every dimension you can think of. If I can actually stack these correctly. So it's much longer as well for that large laser housing there on the bottom. So that is how it stacks up in terms of size. Basic construction of the light is that the majority of it is going to be made out of aluminum, and that's this part down here. It's pretty much everything with the exception of up here around the head. There's a little bit of polymer on there, and then the mounting points here, these sort of X5L portion, and the mounting points up here. Now, one criticism I've heard of these is that they said the mounting system's not durable. That maybe, you know, I don't know. I don't have a million rounds through it. But one thing I do like about it is that when you actually take it out, if I can do here, is that the piece here on the left has helicoils built in there. So it's either aluminum or steel. I'm assuming aluminum. I guess you guys can probably see it right there. So that is good. It adds a little bit of strength and rigidity. So that way it's not a metal screw screwing into plastic. I do like that. Now the basic function of the light is really complex, right? So here's the light obviously, and then there's our little laser module. But you can set this light up to work in any number of configurations. I don't actually know the total number, but I'm just going to kind of show you here real quick. So there we have, right now it is the laser and light function. Again, the camera is probably not showing the laser, but there it is. You guys can actually see it this time if I cover the light up, so you can actually believe me that it is there, and it's very visible to the eye. For whatever reason, the camera just doesn't show it when the light's out there. So that's sort of how you turn it on, just one click and you click it off. There is a momentary function as well where you press and hold, and then whenever you're ready to let off, you just let off and it goes off. Now you do have to hold it for a little bit. If you try to do real short iterations, it won't work like that. So I'm not sure what the actual threshold is, but it's, you know, a second or so to actually hold it to do that. Now, like I said, it can go through any number of modes, and it is ambidextrous, so the left side switch is the same. Now, to toggle through the modes, all you do is you click both sides at the same time, like that. That's where we're at right now. And you guys can see again, we have the laser and the light. Click it again. Now we have the laser, or rather the light and no laser. Click it again. We have just the laser. Click it again. We have a light and laser. Click it again. Now we have a strobing light and laser. That's solid. The laser doesn't move. It's solid, as you guys can see. And then now we have a strobing laser. And again, we're back to this one here is the light and strobing laser. So all different types of modes that you can go through depending on where you want to set it. And to do so, you just click it through. And whenever you turn it back on, say if you put the light back in your holster like this, it would stay in that configuration the next time you want it to come on, unless you double click both sides of it. The light runs on one CR123A battery, and that's how you take it out. You just twist the head of the light like that, pull it out, and out comes your battery. You guys can see again, there's metal connections on there where it meets up and locks up with the actual bezel there. So one CR123 battery. The quoted hours runtime is 6 hours if you have it on constant on, and then 10 hours if you have it on strobe with the light and laser. And then again, all the different combinations are, somewhere a little bit longer than that, depending on how you use it, if you use just the laser and stuff like that. So that is how it works. Again, like I said, I'm about to mount it up here to a gun. I've heard people complain about it, but I don't know. The mounting system to me seems just fine. I've been using it, of course, on the Glock 22, simply because if, any light is going to cause problems on a gun, it's generally going to be on the Glock 22. There's a long history of lights not working well on this pistol, so figured it was a good test platform there for it, and had no issues with it. I didn't notice any movement. I've also read reports that some of the earlier lights, and I don't know if they've changed this or what, had movement in terms of zero. Again, did not see any at all in terms of that, so it was not an issue from what I saw. On the right side, we should note that we do have the windage and elevation adjustments there for the laser. So once I had it dialed in, I had no issues with it at all. It's plenty daylight bright, that laser is. It absolutely is. It stands out on just about every target. That's one of the advantages of a green laser versus a red, for those of you guys that don't know. Green appears much brighter in day. The downside of a green laser is that it takes way more battery than red. So pros and cons to everything. This light and laser combo has an interesting feature that I don't think any other product out there on the market has, at least not that I'm aware of anyway. So when you turn it on, again, you're just going to press, and I have it set for laser only right now, but it'll work the same in any mode. The laser is just easier on my camera up here, so we're going to do that. Basically, when it's on, you're going to be able to put it in the holster. After that, you're able to take it out, and it will automatically come on, and it will go off when you put it in. So basically, that's how it works. We're going to put it in the holster, and this is their in-house. They call it the tack lock holster. As you guys can see, it's a retention holster, and you have to actually press a button. I will let you guys go wild in the comments section about button holsters. You guys can have a field day with that. Go ahead. But right now, as you guys can see, the laser's off. Now, as soon as I start to draw it out a little bit, you'll see the laser come on. There it is. The laser's on, and the way it does that is that there's actually a magnet in the holster right here that interacts with the on-off switch on the light. Now, it's not just this holster here. They actually have several different companies that they work with. I think Blade Tech, Crossbreed, I know. There's certainly several others out there that actually make holsters with this system in there. So the idea behind it is that if you are not well trained and you're in a life or death situation, you go to pull your gun out, it will automatically come on. You don't have to worry about hitting the button. Now, that's the pro of it, right? However, there are certain situations where you want to draw your gun but not draw attention to yourself, and a light coming at you or appearing rather in the situation a lot of times will draw attention to yourself. So that's the downside of it. This light, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that, is 224 lumens. That's what you guys saw there, and you guys saw in the garage and outside. If you look online, the specs will say 175, but they have a new like sort of Gen 2 output there, so it's 224, I believe. But there's times when you don't want to illuminate everything, but you want to have your gun at the ready. So that is the downside of it, right? So pros and cons, I guess you guys would just have to figure which is best for you. But it is an interesting system. You don't have to use it at all. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. So no big deal. If you put it in there with the system off like we have now, and then you draw it, it stays off. It doesn't come on, nothing like that. It's only if you put the gun in the holster with it on. And then whenever it comes out, it will be on, as you guys can see there. We covered most of the important details about it. Now, one thing I want to cover here is something that you guys were posting over on my social media pages, and that's one of the reasons I always post photos of upcoming review projects. Is I want to gauge what you guys think of it and then sort of address those things in the review. And one thing that came up over on Instagram a bunch was people saying that they had one of these lights and it didn't work well in cold weather. Okay, cool. So basically what I did is I set up a test this morning. This is evening as I'm filming it. I know you can't see that in the green screen, but this morning I put this in my freezer for hours. You guys can see the timestamp there on my watch, and then I just walked away and left it and went back to doing other things. And hours later I came back, pulled it out to see if it worked, and it worked perfectly. So no issues there at all. I'm not sure if it's an issue that Viridian has fixed over the years or if it was just an issue with a couple lights. I have no idea. However, I tested it and did not see it at all. Now, another thing I mentioned earlier is that if any gun's gonna have a problem with a light on it, it's gonna be the Glock 22. It has a history of that. Folks who are familiar with the 40 caliber Glock saga with weapon lights know what I'm talking about. And this gun here had never had a malfunction before having the light on it through about probably 600 rounds, not a ton. We put about 700 or 800 with it, or through it rather, with this light on there, and I had one malfunction. I don't really think that's attributable to the light. If I had like 10 malfunctions, then I'd be like, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. But guns do malfunction, even Glocks, despite what they say with their fancy perfection claims. So I don't really think that's statistically significant. Now, overall, what do I think about the light? A couple things. Of course, like I said, it's 224 lumens. You guys saw how it compares to some of the other offerings out there. If they came out and bumped it up to, say, 400 or 500 lumens, would I be mad about it? I wouldn't. Of course, you guys would, or we would probably all see a little bit lower or less amount of time on the runtime, because the battery, of course, would be being run harder at that point. You can change some things with circuitry, I understand that, but generally speaking, when you bump those lumens up, you reduce the battery time on it. So always a pro and con there. You guys saw what it looked like in my garage. You guys saw what it looked like outside. I'd be able to get PID at those distances pretty well, I think anyway, but of course at 50 yards, 75 yards, it may benefit you to have something with a little bit of higher lumen and or brighter candela to have that better throw out there. But for most folks that are using a pistol,
the engagement distances, it should do just fine. Now, again, I really wish I could show you guys with the light on, but that laser is bright. You will 100% pick it up. There's no way you can miss it. It is gleaming bright with that green laser, so that's definitely a pro to it. The interface system on it, I don't really think it's a pro or a con. It's intuitive, so you can either do it with your trigger finger or come up here with your thumb and do it. It's in the right position as far as that goes. People who are used to rockers, it's a little bit different, but not good or bad. It's just different. That's pretty much it on that in terms of my opinion on it. Price-wise, this one here goes for basically around probably, I think the lowest I've ever seen it is like $195. The highest is probably like $240. So it's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as other offerings out there in the market, particularly ones that have latent laser combos. Those tend to be really expensive. As you guys have seen in my review of the X400 of the TLR-2G that you guys just saw, those are more expensive, at least right now anyway, than this light. So pros and cons as far as that goes as well. But all in all, the light worked well. I didn't have any issues with it. You guys see the lumen count. You guys can make your determination as to whether or not that's enough for you. And I think we'll pretty much just wrap the review up there. Again, looking forward to your button on the holster comments down below in the comment section. And if you guys have any questions, you could also post them down there. The best place to post those questions, though, is over at my Facebook page. As always, I tend to just see them more. I have no idea why I don't see them as much here on YouTube as I used to. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber and you like what you saw in the video, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Even if you didn't like what you saw in this video, hit the subscribe button. It ain't gonna hurt you. And I hope to see all of you in the next video.